Alright, video number 3. It's 1:38 a.m. For some reason I just can't buckle down on things today. So at the top you talk about the control of African Americans throughout American history has taken on different faces under the guise of public protection. I insert always lurked under the guise there, and you're describing something that's pretty evil, pretty nefarious. If you can drop a word like lurked in there, it doesn't hurt. I mean, it's the difference between saying something maybe, and I think anyway, saying it a little bit more elegantly, and that's, good writing should do that. Even though we're doing an academic model of writing, that doesn't mean that it shouldn't have some style to it. So that's what I'm up to there. You then say, as the public's awareness about African Americans you say shifted. As the public's awareness and opinions about African Americans shifted. I'm more or less leaving that, but I'm just inserting as the public's awareness of and opinions about prepositions there. I think it creates a little parallelism there that works well. I think Garner, you can look up what he has to say about parallelism too. Works better for me anyway that way. You say about African Americans shifted. I say have shifted. The policies the government applied to them. I say that the government applied. So I'm just dropping in occasional words here. I think it's helping the flow a little bit. Supplied to control African Americans have evolved. I'm giving you more verbs, I guess. And more compound type verbs. Have shifted, have evolved. I'm putting more words in, and sometimes that's not a good thing. For me, it's reading better. These are not what I'm describing are not what I consider heavy duty edits. These are suggestive edits, and there's a difference, right? Sometimes there's something that's just clearly wrong, like this. When I say you need a cite, you need a cite. But some of the edits, I'm just sort of playing around with it and giving you other looks, and then it's up to you if you think I've helped it or didn't help it enough to make it worth doing. Anyway, you say war on drugs policies became a guise of public protection to control African Americans. I struck that. I say white Americans were largely untroubled by the tactics of law enforcement in the war on drugs, and politicians have used fear tactics to influence public support, creating a negative perception of police, illustrated in HMP's article. Those altered perceptions, altered from what? That question is lurking out there. Affected African Americans' everyday interaction with law enforcement, leading to a breakdown of social connection that should have been in place to the benefit of both parties. That's my insert there, that it should have been in place to the benefit of both parties. Now, and I'll just finish this up and I'll go back and do this next question. You say soon, give a timeline. Public policy served as the catalyst through which police and the public viewed African Americans as a dangerous society. So when are you talking about, over what time period did that take place? You've also got in this first page here, if you look at what I call a wall of text, it's just yes, occasionally you have paragraphs that can be that long. I'm never a fan of them. Paragraph breaks give the reader and the eye a moment to rest and collect their thoughts on what's going on. That's too much for me anyway. I try not to go that long if I can avoid it. Your writing is okay in terms of mechanics, but you're missing the point of the assignment here, which is to sort of have a demolition derby of the articles crashing into each other. You have one article here mentioned by name so far. This part of the assignment I can look at and tell if the student's doing a good job just immediately by whether or not I'm seeing multiple authors in the same paragraph, same sentence. You've already talked about them individually. You've already told me about these articles. I'm interested in what they have to say to each other if you compare them. So now we go through a section, and again, you're going to have to, I mean, it's up to you, but I would rewrite this because you want to do well in this, and you've got a whole section here that's lacking. But I added what you have here anyway because you may be able to recover some of it, right? So the resulting shift in perceptions pushed the changes in public policy against African Americans analyzed in B&T. So now you're talking about B&T and you're doing it for a while, then you switch over to UNM. But I'm not seeing where they play off each other. So another thing is that repetitive, something new to say. You've read the articles enough to know a few things that they say, and now you're just kind of rehashing it and rehashing it and rehashing it. Cut out the rehash, use the space to introduce something new. Again, about this part of the papers, I made a big deal about this in the video, I think, and also certainly in the writing guide. I gave you an example of how to compare two kinds of dogs, right? So I don't know if you read it and forgot it, read it and didn't understand it, read it and ignored it. You're going your own way here, though, and this is one of the parts of the assignment where I really was looking for a certain level of compliance from people. So it, you need to fix this if you want to really do as well as you can on this project. But it looks again like what you're doing is you're sort of again isolating the articles and rehashing them for me, which is not what the call is. So the last paragraph here, or what I put in the synthesis section. You didn't give me sections, so my reading of it, it looked like that might be where the synthesis was. You've sort of got 2 pages of analysis, and then the looks like most of a page is the synthesis. But before we get there, each of the articles, I changed it to considers. I need to take out covers. It considers the different facets of the strife that the war on drugs has created for African Americans. Strife is my word, apparently. Those several stages over several decades, please put in place by politicians attempting to win votes, change public opinion just after the civil rights movement. Now that's, yeah, see, again, I don't have it in my, I'm supplying it now, but that's something you can go with a cite on. Where is that coming from? The resulting laws targeted prisoners with more punitive punishments, not crimes, and took away hopes to re-enter society in a better position. Once felons have been labeled as deviants due to public perception. Deviants, I guess you could say. Deviant usually connotates something, a certain class of sort of moral crimes, but it's not 100% lockdown on that, so I guess we can let it go. If you are a criminal, you are deviant from society, deviating from the societal norm. But deviants tend to be people who've committed certain, and I don't know that that's necessarily, I think that's a perception of the meaning. That's a shade of the meaning is what I'm talking about here. Anyway, what I took to be the synthesis started with despite social control. I say despite government officials failing to take responsibility for the damage their policies cause, the public is still largely blind to the issues. This is a case of willful ignorance too, though. I mean, people know about this stuff, they just pretend it's not there. At least that's my interpretation of it. I can't put that in there, but it's in the back of my head as I'm reading this. You have to sort of make up your own mind about it, but I don't take it as an article of faith that people don't know about this. I think people just choose to be, as I say, the term is willful ignorance. The government's ability to exercise social control of African Americans through policy that later affected public outlook changed the political landscape. I leave some of your writing in there, and then at the end I did do a little change up for the country to begin making progress, its own people cannot be so divided by racial issues nor can society built on freedom and democracy continue to attack a particular race. So this is the part of the paper that's supposed to be prescriptive, or at least talk about new directions for research and so on. You should be mindful of that as you edit and re-edit. How specific are you being about this, what the next steps are for research and so forth? You write, or I've changed a little bit of the next one too, the next sentence too. You've said a major factor in achieving this goal. Factor is a good one to avoid. It's a jargon word. It doesn't mean much. I'm saying the growing population of minorities are now becoming more important in our politics. In the near future, project when, you may have to go to an outside source, majorities will outnumber the white community. I know the dates coming up, I've heard it reported differently, maybe 2030, maybe later, but you should try to find a reliable source there. And with due time, the removal of the effects of the war on drugs will start to wane. That's projective, but that's fine. The failure of the American justice system to support rehabilitated ex-felons needs to be addressed as well. So you've made a very abrupt transition there. You need to think about how that's flowing. Think about fixing that up. America is the only developed nation in which people have served time in prison are released with the, you say, inability to vote. I would say, and I'm making a little change here, and this is only for felons, I believe. But I'm not going to go back and look at it, but isn't this a point you've already made? And if not, I think it is, but why is it coming so late? If you haven't made it, it should have been made earlier, and if it was made earlier, it's repetitive. I've said when you're citing to an article with more than one author, you just in the site you just use the author, the lead author, which is the first author's last name. To answer this, a model similar to much of Europe that allows the prisoners to complete community service upon releasing in full citizen rights. One answer that says, okay, so that's fine. Every nation has faults, especially a religious nation that was built on a dream of freedom and democracy, still commits crimes against free service within itself. Solve the issues, process change. Yeah, I mean, I've made some changes, I think, to try to make it clearer. As I say, the point with this class is you've got to compare the two of them. I've noticed, I think, that what I'm trying to do here is duplicate what happens in office hours. It's a little bit difficult because you can't see exactly what I'm seeing, but when I'm working with a student in an office, we're both looking at the same page at the exact same time. Maybe I can figure out a way to do that in future on the video. But for now, we're doing it this way because I'm not that fancy. But you need to go through, you need to watch the video, get the gist of what I'm talking about, then you need to compare your original to my edits and learn it that way. That's really what's going to do you the most good here. All right, you're on the right track, but you have some work to do. We'll be in touch the rest of the week and figure out how you're doing and how you can make it as good as possible. All right, thanks.